Welcome to the debate. What if I told you that the fate of a YouTube video, like an asset that might live online and generate revenue for 10 years, is irreversibly decided in the exact amount of time it takes to binge a single season of television?
I'd say you are definitely going to stress a lot of creators out with that framing.
Well, maybe they need to be stressed. We are diving into an industry analysis today that frames publishing a video a lot like finishing a surgical procedure.
Right, the post-operative checkup analogy.
Exactly. The operation itself might be over when you close the incision, but whether the patient actually thrives or, suffers massive complications, that depends entirely on the immediate post-operative care.
Yeah, the first 24 to 48 hours.
Right. So today, we are asking a critical question about the landscape of content strategy in 2026. Is the initial 24 to 48-hour post-publication window truly the ultimate determinant of a video's algorithmic destiny?
It's a big question.
It is. And I will be arguing that the platform's immediate testing mechanics make those first 48 hours irreversibly decisive.
And I will be arguing that prioritizing this short-term window is honestly a trap. It mistakes correlation for causation, and it completely ignores the underlying structures of long-term video success.
Okay, well, let's look at the foundational mechanics of how distribution actually works right now. The algorithm fundamentally relies on immediate high-stakes testing.
Right.
Within literally minutes of a video going live, YouTube tests it with a micro audience of roughly 10 to 100 viewers.
Just a tiny sliver of the audience.
Exactly. And following that, it allocates about 1,000 initial impressions within the first 24 hours. The entire purpose of this test is to establish a base click-through rate.
CTR, yeah.
Meaning, out of the first 1,000 times YouTube puts your thumbnail on a screen, how many real humans actually stop scrolling and click? The system is actively stress testing the asset.
Sure, but...
And if a creator does not optimize for this exact window, for instance, by scheduling the video 1 to 2 hours before their audience's peak activity time, they are failing that stress test. The data shows securing that early window gives a 20 to 35% performance boost.
I mean, on paper, yes.
When you fail that initial test, the vital signs drop, promotion halts, and the algorithm just moves on. It's over.
See, I come at it from a completely different way, because hyper-focusing on those first 48 hours is just a severely reductive framework.
Reductive how? The numbers are right there.
If you look at the source material's explicit warnings, a low click-through rate in those first few hours does not inherently condemn a video.
I mean, mostly it does.
No, we have massive amounts of data showing evergreen content gaining its real traction weeks or even months later. You are talking about immediate performance, but YouTube's 2026 algorithmic shift actually deprioritizes the isolated success of a single upload.
Okay, but
The overriding metric that dictates distribution now is session contribution.
session contribution matters, sure. But
It is the core metric. It's the overall watch time and engagement a video adds to a user's broader platform session.
right, I know what it is.
If a viewer watches your video and then feels satisfied enough to watch 3 more videos from other creators, you get algorithmic credit for extending that entire session.
Yes, absolutely.
So when creators panic over this post-operative rush you are describing, they neglect the long-term structural elements that actually sustain a channel's health over years, not just hours.
Okay, but you cannot achieve long-term session contribution if nobody enters the session in the first place.
Well,
No, seriously. This brings us to the absolute necessity of aggressive early action. The industry data shows that immediate external distribution is critical to survive that initial 10 to 100 viewer test.
you mean pushing to other platforms?
Yes. We are talking about pushing the video to email lists, pinning it on external socials, driving community sharing within the first 6 hours. You are deliberately boosting the early click-through rates on those crucial first 1,000 impressions.
Wait, I need to pause you right there.
Go ahead.
If YouTube is relying on an on-platform test of 1,000 impressions to judge the video, how does pushing my video to an external email list actually help my on-platform click-through rate?
It signals demand.
Aren't those entirely different traffic sources? Like they're being tracked separately.
They are tracked separately in the analytics, yes, but think of the algorithm like a bouncer at a nightclub.
Okay, a bouncer.
The bouncer's job is to decide whether to open the velvet rope and let the general platform audience into your video. When you drive immediate, heavy traffic from an external email list in the first 6 hours, you are forming a massive line outside the club.
I see where you're going with this.
Right? The bouncer sees this external demand, recognizes the venue is hot, and immediately opens the rope for the on-platform micro-audience. Every external click in that window validates the asset.
Okay, it's a fun analogy.
If you don't feed the algorithm those signals during that specific 48-hour window, you are leaving the evaluation to pure chance.
But have you considered the cost of manufacturing that line outside the club? Like, does rushing to meet an artificial 48-hour deadline actually degrade the video itself?
Degrade it? How?
Because if you are a creator listening to this, you know exactly what that post-upload panic feels like.
Oh, sure.
You publish, you go make a cup of coffee, you come back to check the analytics, and you are just hitting refresh, sweating over those early numbers.
The refresh button gets a real workout, yeah.
Exactly. And that anxiety leads to rushed decisions. The industry analysis points to a fascinating 2023 study published in PLOS1.
The health science study, right?
Yeah. Researchers looked at health science students watching 56 recorded multimedia classes. They used weblog analysis to measure what variables actually drove watch time. The counterintuitive finding here is remarkable. Watch time was actually higher when students had the subtitles turned off.
Wait, are you suggesting creators shouldn't add subtitles to their videos?
No, not at all. It is an argument against bad subtitles. It proves that sloppy, auto-generated captions create what analysts call cognitive friction.
Okay, cognitive friction.
When a creator is frantically rushing to publish and blast their email list within your critical 6-hour window, they frequently leave the auto-generated captions on just to save time.
And how does that actually hurt the viewer? I mean, the text is still on the screen?
Because of the mental mechanism required to process it. When you have poorly synced or error-ridden auto-captions, the viewer's brain is constantly trying to reconcile the audio they are hearing with the delayed, incorrect text they are reading.
Wow. So they just get tired.
Exactly. That mental lag is exhausting. It physically drains the viewer's attention span, so they just click away.
I see.
Missing the immediate optimization window you are so focused on is a totally worthwhile trade-off, if you mean taking the time to upload clean subtitles and precise metadata.
Clean metadata is vital, obviously. But I would argue it is precisely the invisible DNA that the algorithm needs during that immediate test.
But it's long-term.
You brought up metadata. We know that the first 60 characters of the title and the first 100 characters of the description are what populate in search results without a user needing to click Show More.
Right.
That text is the context the system relies on before a human even sees the thumbnail. If you delay publication or treat that metadata casually because you're focused on preventing cognitive friction months down the road,
You aren't treating it casually, you're taking your time.
that you are depriving the algorithm of the exact contextual DNA it needs to categorize the video for that 10 to 100 person micro audience today.
But that invisible DNA isn't a perishable good.
What do you mean?
A highly optimized 60-character title and a tightly written 100-character description will continue to index and draw search traffic indefinitely.
Sure, eventually.
The PLOS One study highlights that visual cues and proper segmentation drive long-term retention. If a creator is obsessed with blasting their email list in the first 6 hours to force a spike, they are sacrificing the permanent architecture of the video for a temporary sugar high in the analytics dashboard.
Okay, but a rocket launch isn't a sugar high. It is an ignition sequence.
An ignition sequence.
Yes, if you don't achieve escape velocity in the first few hours, the rocket falls back to the launch pad.
I think you're being a bit dramatic. But let's look at what happens when that audience actually arrives. The technical metadata gets them in the door, but this post-publication window is heavily defined by community management under algorithmic observation.
Oh boy.
I am talking about the mandate of interacting with comments within the very first hour.
Yeah, the infamous first-hour comment sprint.
It is consistently ignored by creators who think their job ends at the upload screen. Engaging with early viewers isn't just about building a parasocial relationship, you know?
Now, what is it about?
It directly increases aggregated engagement metrics. When you reply to a comment, you literally double the comment volume on the video. You increase the response rate.
Okay, mathematically, yes.
During the most sensitive phase of algorithmic evaluation, you are manually injecting signals of an active, highly engaged community. Manually injecting.
You are rewarding that micro audience for participating, which trains them to show up and participate in the next upload's microtest.
I'm sorry, but I just don't buy that framework at all.
Why not? The math checks out.
The data clearly states that responding to comments does not directly push the video in the algorithm. It is not a direct lever for positioning.
But it builds the community.
Treating the first hour of comments like a sprint is like, throwing a massive house party, frantically greeting everyone at the front door for the first 60 minutes and then locking yourself in your bedroom for the rest of the night.
Well, you have to make sure they actually step inside the house first.
You are optimizing for the wrong timeline.
How so?
True channel strength, the kind that actually survives algorithmic shifts and builds session contribution, comes from continuous, long-term signals.
Okay.
The industry strategies for 2026 explicitly point this out. Publishing 2 to 3 community posts per week between video uploads strengthens long-term channel signals far more effectively than panicked first-hour comment replies.
So you're saying polls over replies?
Yes, you run a poll, you post behind-the-scenes content, you ask a question. The community tab sustains the channel's heartbeat when there is no new video. It builds a sustainable ecosystem.
Right.
If your entire community strategy relies on you hovering over the keyboard for 60 minutes post-upload to fabricate early engagement, you don't have a community, you have a hostage situation with your own analytics page.
Okay, I will give you that the hostage situation is a very vivid way to look at it. But it relies on a false dichotomy.
Does it?
Yes, because you can maintain a strong community tab strategy during the week and respect the mathematical reality of the first hour of a new upload.
I just don't see the return on investment for that hour of panic.
Why would you willingly leave aggregated engagement metrics on the table during the precise window the algorithm is running its most critical stress test?
Because it doesn't move the needle long term.
It is a cascading effect. The early comments signal viewer satisfaction, which validates the high early click-through rate from your external distribution.
Assuming they click.
Right, which justifies the bouncer opening the rope and expanding the test beyond the first 1,000 impressions. Let's dig into that session architecture then. Because configuring end screens and assigning the video to curated playlists must be done immediately upon publishing.
Well, obviously.
If you succeed in generating that initial surge of traffic from the microtest, you must have the infrastructure in place to direct that traffic logically to the next video. You have to capitalize on the traffic spike.
Yes, you do.
If you leave the end screen to the default's most recent upload, you are effectively pushing the viewer out the back door into an alley instead of guiding them to the next room of the party.
End screens and playlists are vital, yes. I would actually frame them as the primary evidence for the long-term session contribution argument.
Wait, how does that counter the need for immediate action? You have to set them up before the traffic arrives.
You set them up beforehand, yes, but their value is entirely long tail. They are tools designed to extend the viewer's session indefinitely.
Okay.
YouTube in 2026 rewards the satisfaction of the whole session, not just the raw watch time of the single asset. The fact that we must meticulously curate playlists and end screens proves that the 48-hour window is just a tiny fraction of the video's lifespan.
I mean, sure, it's a fraction.
You are building a library, not a daily newspaper that gets thrown out tomorrow.
But even if you perfectly optimize that session architecture and you build a beautiful library, none of it matters if the video gets silently demonetized on day one.
Oh, here we go.
No, that's the real risk here. We have to address risk management in that early window.
It's totally overblown.
Is it?
The industry data heavily warns about the urgency of monitoring content ID claims immediately after publishing. Leaving a content ID claim unattended in those first 48 hours results in silent demonetization during the absolute peak earning window of the video.
This is where the data completely dismantles the panic.
The views are pouring in from your optimization, and the revenue is flowing to a third party simply because you walked away from the dashboard to relax.
This anxiety around early copyright issues is massively disproportionate to the actual risk.
Tell that to someone who lost a weekend of ad revenue. Look at the platform's transparency data. We are talking about nearly 1 billion automatic content ID claims processed by the system. Do you know how many of those are actually disputed by creators?
It doesn't matter how many if it happens to you.
Less than 0.4%.
Right. But for the creators caught in that 0.4%, the loss of early revenue is devastating. It is a massive blow to their business.
Listen to the rest of the metric, though. Of that tiny fraction that is actually disputed, over 60% are resolved in the creator's favor.
Well, that takes time.
The panic relies on conflating two very different mechanisms. We have to clarify this for anyone listening. A content ID claim is mostly harmless. It's an automated tracking mechanism that might temporarily redirect revenue.
Temporarily redirecting my paycheck is a big deal to me.
But it is fundamentally different from a formal copyright strike, where accumulating 3 in a 90-day period results in actual channel termination. The industry treats a standard content ID claim in the first 48 hours as a catastrophic event requiring immediate intervention.
Because it is immediate.
The statistical reality is that it is a routine, easily resolvable administrative flag. Obsessing over this specific panel in the first 2 days distracts creators from the actual work of building sustainable content.
Losing 60% of your potential revenue for a video because you couldn't be bothered to check a dashboard is not a distraction. It is a failure of professional discipline.
It's only a loss if the video does all of its traffic in the first 2 days, which brings us right back to the flaw of the short-term mindset.
Well, let me synthesize my perspective on this landscape, because I think the mechanisms we've covered paint a very clear empirical picture.
Go for it.
While long-tail evergreen performance absolutely exists, the reality of YouTube's initial testing mechanics dictates the timeline. We are dealing with a system that initiates a 10 to 100 viewer micro-audience test within minutes.
Yes.
It establishes a 1,000 impression baseline within 24 hours to judge your click-through rate. You cannot build long-term session contribution. You cannot get viewers into your beautifully curated playlist or have them appreciate your perfectly synced subtitles months down the road if you fail the initial 48-hour stress test.
Right.
The algorithm requires early signals of life. If you don't provide them through smart scheduling, immediate metadata optimization, and pushing external traffic to open the velvet rope, the platform will simply allocate its impressions to a creator who did.
Okay, but I look at the exact same data and arrive at a completely different conclusion.
Which is?
Treating the first 48 hours as a life or death post-operative crisis creates a frantic, anxious workflow.
Anxiety is part of the job.
But that anxiety directly results in degraded quality, like the messy, auto-generated subtitles that the PLOS One study proves create cognitive friction. Viewers' brains get tired trying to parse bad text and they leave.
Okay.
The frantic sprint distracts creators from the structural architecture that actually drives 2026 success. Perfectly honed metadata, highly curated end screens, and consistent community posts between uploads to maintain the ecosystem.
It's a balance.
You argue the algorithm requires early signals of life. I argue the algorithm has evolved. It easily recognizes the difference between a temporary, artificially inflated pulse and the deep, sustained heartbeat of a truly valuable channel.
Well, I will acknowledge a significant point of convergence here. Regardless of whether you prioritize surviving the immediate algorithmic stress test or building the long-term session architecture, we both firmly reject what the industry calls lazy distribution.
Completely. Failing to program a release time, relying on default end screens that push viewers out the back door, or abandoning the asset the second it goes live, that actively harms a channel's growth.
Absolutely.
The idea that a creator can simply hit publish, close their laptop, and hope for the best is a relic of a much older version of the internet.
True. Understanding this tension between early algorithmic appeasement and long-term content strategy allows creators to build a more deliberate workflow. The source material offers even deeper layers on how to interpret your own analytics to distinguish correlation from causation, which is an area every creator should be exploring in their own dashboards.
Yeah. It demands a rigorous approach to how we diagnose success and failure, without letting the immediate numbers hold us hostage.
The surgery might be over, but the debate on how to manage the recovery is entirely in your hands. Which vital signs will you prioritize when the monitor starts beeping? Thank you for joining us. We will see you next time on The Debate.